All right, another change without the Sedins. We have no captain. Our captain retired. So in the off season, the big question, so who should be the next captain? That's our question because Canucks didn't name one to begin the season. So we are currently without a captain for I think it's the first time in franchise history.
Is it really?
Yeah, or maybe once before. It's pretty rare. Teams in the past usually had a captain. So we don't have one now. Who should be the next one and why? So, Eric, who's your top pick? Who do you think would be the best future captain of the Canucks and why?
Well, this is interesting for me because I don't really like it when teams name young players captains right away. Um, so I like having a veteran as a captain. So if you were to name a new captain now, my original thought was give it to Edler for a season or two because he's been with the Canucks for a long time and he's an older guy on the team. But the next captain should be Horvat, shouldn't it?
Yeah, though I've heard some of the talk about possible nominees. I've heard just talk about Edler because he is one of our veteran players, and people have talked that when his contract expires, we should extend him. He should be the future captain. But I think Edler would be a terrible captain because what makes a good captain? It's not just
Yeah.
about talking to the media after and answering questions. It's being able to rally your teammates, to be set an example, and to, when your team is down and struggling, to help shift that move and get that
Yeah.
collective effort going. Right? Edler is way too quiet. He's this quiet, shy Swedish defenseman. His personality, I don't think he can handle the leadership in the room, and I don't think he can handle the media either. So I think Edler would be a terrible choice, even though he is one of the most veteran players we have, and one of the few players we have left from the Stanley Cup run of 2011. But what you mentioned Horvat though, why do you think Horvat would be a good captain?
Horvat as a captain, kind of as a comparison, would be kind of like a Jonathan Tays like captain. Leads by example more than anything. I don't think he would be necessarily very vocal in the room and rally the troops, like you say, on a in a vocal way. Plus, I don't like the idea of young players being that way with the older guys. Like Horvat's not going to be like an instant like Mark Messier in the dressing room. But Jonathan Tays is a great comparison as far as work ethic, and I'd see him leading by example. Horvat seems like a really hard worker and just like really good integrity and a good person and a good teammate. And he sets a really good example for everyone else. And I think he's committed to this team and he's committed to the system and buying in to the coaching staff. And it's just kind of hard to ignore the idea of him as captain,
Right?
starting center and playing behind the Sedins for a couple extra years.
You mentioned his work ethic, and that's something he shares with Henrik Sedin, right? So he's kind of continuing that. I know that I've heard interviews with him with other players. He's really tried to support a lot of the younger players who are coming into the league. I think he also has the maturity that is will help him be a good captain. Do you remember? It was not last season, the season before. He had a stretch of something like over 30 games without a goal, and he was really hard on himself. And Henrik just really encouraged him, and he got through it. It's like he's been through slumps in his career, but he's learned to just keep working hard, and you get through it. And I think that's really important, especially for a young team, because it's gonna be a lot of losing, and but do you let that affect you to the point where you think, oh, it's just hopeless, right? Because God knows they don't want to end up like the Oilers or the Sabres, where they're like in their rebuild for 8 years or something,
Are you
and
bashing
they
the Oilers again?
yeah, and they just get used to losing, right? They just start to accept it, right? No, we need a captain who's gonna get our players to work hard and know that if you keep working hard in the good habits, then the goals and the success will come, right? So Horvat. He's my vote for the future captain now, and he's been around for a while, right? He's been to the All-Star game. Like, he is definitely one of our best players. He's looked really confident, comfortable with the media as well. I think he's taking on that role. So Horvat's well positioned, and he's also young enough. He's going to be here in the future, right? Someone like Edler,
Knock on wood.
someone like Sutter. They're not gonna. They're getting older. Not going to be with this team, and we need a leadership group that's going to take these young guys to the Stanley Cup someday.
How do you feel about the timing, though? Do you think? I mean, the Canucks have four alternates now: Edler, Sutter, Tanev, and Horvat.
Mm-hmm.
Starting the season, no captain. Do you like the decision of them waiting to name? Well, everyone thinks it's going to be Horvat, but we'll have to see.
I don't really like it. I guess I'm a little more old school. I like the idea of a captain who can lead and kind of rally the troops and, be that leader in the room. But nowadays it's become more and more common for teams to have no captain, and they're like, well, being a captain or assistant practically on the ice means that you're the ones who are allowed to talk to the referee after whistles, right? So there is a practical rule. So there's not really an advantage to having a captain on the ice per se, with in terms of dealing with the refs, but I think in the room I would like to see it. I remember years ago, like, they felt it was so important that they gave the captaincy to Luongo, to a goalie, even though that's an unusual thing. It's like he was our strongest leader, and they're like, no, we need to have a leader who's our captain. So they made the goalie, even though that makes it awkward for talking to the referees about stuff because the goalie can't come out of the ice to talk to everyone, right? So, yeah, I don't really like it, but I think as long as they name a captain next year, then that's okay. But if they just keep with assistant captains, I think that's kind of cowardly. Like, oh, we don't have anyone who's good enough to be a captain. It's like,
Or maybe we don't, though, and that's the thing. Is it better to not have a captain than to name somebody that doesn't fit the role? Like you were saying, do we have somebody that can rally the troops and be a strong leader?
I think someone's got to step it up, right? Like, somebody leaves, it's like in the workplace, like someone leaves, there's an opportunity, like, step it up, show you've got what it takes, right? Like, there's got to be someone. These guys are professional athletes. They've been working their whole lives. I'm sure a lot of them had leadership roles in junior hockey and stuff like that, right? So that's what I want. I want some of our younger players to step up and take that mantle, just like, like Sidney Crosby, Jonathan Taves, there's all these players who become captain at a young age, and it's definitely possible. So I don't really like having no captain. It just seems weird to me.
Yeah, I agree.